Hello, everyone. It's nice to see all of the panelists here. And also thank you, Liga, for the word. As it was introduced and informed, this discussion is going to be in English because we have an amazing panel here. Today, we are joined by speakers from Helsinki, Finland, Tallinas, Estonia, Riga, Latvia, and Viļņas, Lithuania. And we are very happy to see great experts, municipality and involvement experts from all of the aforementioned towns here. So today's plan is as follows. We are going to hear presentations from all of the cities about the ways how these cities involve citizens in the municipal processes and how they promote citizen involvement in the municipal planning and all kinds of activities that we have in our cities. And then we will open a discussion and we will try to find answers to questions about how can we promote citizen involvement even better. And all of you are invited to submit your questions here in the chat, or also you can use Slido that we have prepared and we will read your questions to the panel discussion speakers. And I'm gonna give floor firstly to a speaker from Riga. Ilona Stalidzāne is a representative of Riga municipality, and Ilona is gonna present her presentation in Latvian because, as you know, majority of our audience is from Riga or from Latvia, therefore it just makes more sense. But then we're gonna switch back to English and have our discussion as there. As I said and introduced, Ilona is head of division at Riga City Council, and she's an expert in Riga municipality. Therefore, I'm gonna give floor to Ilona. Ilona, aicinu jūs rādīt jūs prezentāciju un iepazīstināt mūs ar Rīgu vairāk. Paldies!
Jā, labdien visiem! Liels paldies par uzaicinājumu un iespēju šodien dalīties ar mūsu pieredzi. Jāsaka, gan klausoties dienas pirmo daļu, ļoti daudz jau kas ir pateikts par Rīgu, tāpēc man ir diezgan liels izaicinājums no vienas puses neatkārtoties, no otras puses tomēr arī mūsu viesiem parādīt šo te mūsu perspektīvu, tāpēc es centīšos apvienot šīs divas lietas. Tā tūlītās mēģināšu dalīties ar savu ekrānu. Tā, pogu es tā. Jā. Es saprotu, ka jūs redzat manu prezentāciju. Tā.
Jā, mēs redzam ļoti labi.
Jā. Tā, mēģinu uzlikt viņu uz pilnu ekrānu. Vai jūs viņu arī redzat kā pilnu ekrānu? Vai jūs redzat viņu tā kā tādā darba režīmā? Laikam būs. Jā, tātad runājot par Rīgas pilsētas apkaimju iedzīvotāju centru, mēs esam izveidoti, kā jau mūsu Latvijas kolēģi zina, šogad ar 1. maiju ir pagājis nedaudz vairāk par pusgadu, un mums jau ir iespēja arī, protams, atskatīties nedaudz jau paveiktajā un saprast, kā mēs varētu turpmāk darboties. Bet, lai jūs labāk saprastu, kāpēc šāds centrs tika izveidots, tad šeit jūs redzat, ka aids izveidošanas mērķis bija nodrošināt vienotas kvalitātes un iedzīvotāju vajadzībās balstītus pakalpojumus visā galvaspilsētas teritorijā, jo mēs diezgan labi zinām, kad, lai arī cik mums būtu vienādi priekšstati un priekšraksti kaut kādās lietās, tomēr, ja ir vairākas institūcijas, kas nodarbojas ar līdzīgiem jautājumiem, tomēr katrai sava izpratne un varbūt arī pieeja, un lai šo pieeju tomēr padarītu vienotu, nodrošinātu tādu vienotu pieeju visos jautājumos, tāpēc arī tika izveidots apkaimju iedzīvotāju centrs, bet lai nodrošinātu šo te vienoto kvalitātu un vajadzībās balstīts pakalpojums, neapšaubāmi to nevar izdarīt bez iedzīvotāju aktīvas iesaistīšanās un iesaistīšanas arī no pašvaldības puses. Ja mēs runājam par apkaimju iedzīvotāju centru funkcijām, tad tās ir zināmā mērā 5. klientu apkalpošana, metodiska vadība pašvaldības pakalpojumu pārvaldībā, visu veidu ielu tirdzniecības atļauju izsniegšana, iedzīvotāju dzīves vietas deklarēšana un iedzīvotāju līdzdalības un līdzdalības pārvaldības nodrošināšana. Būtībā visā savā prezentācijā tālāk es runāšu par šo pašu pēdējo mūsu funkciju vai uzdevumu. Tikai gribēju jums parādīt visu to mūsu pakalpojumu klāstu, jo dažkārt kādu laiciņu atpakaļ vēl, es pieļauju domu, ka arī varbūt šobrīd vēl ir atsevišķi cilvēki, kuri domā, ka apkaimju iedzīvotāju centrs ir tikai apkaimju koordinātori, kas tā nebūtu nav, bet neapšaubām, ja apkaimju koordinātori ir redzamākā daļa, tā apkaimju iedzīvotāju centra daļa, kura ir visvairāk vērsta uz iedzīvotāju līdzdalības un sadarbības nodrošināšanu. Un ja mēs runājam tieši par apkaimju koordinātoru uzdevumiem, tad šeit jūs redzat, ka viņu loma ir ārkārtīgi plaša. Un sākot jau ar iedzīvotāju vajadzību izzināšanu, kas tika pieminēts arī domas priekšsēdētāju runā. Šeit arī neatceros, kurš no runātājiem, bet no providus pētniekiem bija arī teikts par šiem saistošajiem noteikumiem un par to, ka ir ārkārtīgi, varbūt nepietiekami bieži tiek iesaistīti iedzīvotāji arī šo dokumentu izstrādē vai apspriešanā, tad kā labo piemēru es varu pieminēt to, ka šogad, tad, kad tika gatavots grozījumi saistošajos noteikumos par sadzīves atkritumu apsaimniekošanu, tieši pēc vienas deputātas iniciatīvas tika veikta iedzīvotāju aptauja, kurā tad arī tika uzdot jautājumi par to, kā viņi vērtē piedāvātos grozījumus. Un mums tiešām ir datos balstīti secinājumi par to, ka to, ko vēlējās piedāvāt doma un kas arī tika iestrādāts un akceptēts saistošajos noteikumos, ka tas tieši bija tas pareizais ceļš un iedzīvotāji to atbalsta. Tāpat mums šobrīd, piemēram, notiek arī iedzīvotāju, šobrīd varbūt vairāk caur biedrībām, bet arī biedrības iesaist arī savus iedzīvotājus arī par drošības jautājumiem. Tā kā esam diezgan aktīvi uzsākuši šo te iedzīvotāju vajadzību izzināšanu, un, protams, arī mērs pieminēja, tad, kad tika organizēts apkaimju sarunas ar mēru, tad arī tur bija iespēja iedzīvotājiem uzdot savus jautājumus mēram, kur arī mēs redzam to problemātiku, par ko cilvēki grib zināt, kas viņus uztrauc, kādas problēmas. Otra ļoti liela loma, es teiktu, ja neviena no lielākajām, ir komunikātora loma. Kā jau domas priekšsēdētājs arī pieminēja, katram no mūsu koordinatoriem ir sava Facebook grupa, kur starpniecība tiek gan informācija nodota iedzīvotājiem par visdažādākajiem, gan pašvaldības, gan varbūt arī nevienmēr pašvaldības jautājumiem. Piemēram, visiem mums zināmais šobrīd vakcinācijas jautājums, kas varbūt nav gluži pašvaldības kompetence, bet tā pašā laikā mēs arī atbalstot valsts institūcijas palīdzam ar informāciju, kur vien iespējams ir nonākt tuvāk pie iedzīvotāju un sniegt viņam šo aktuālo informāciju. Un, protams, arī par kādām pašvaldības aktualitātēm sezonāli šobrīd tās bija lapu savākšana, jā, un tagad būs arī noteikti par sniega un ziemas problēmām, tā kā viss tāda aktuālā informācija. Gan Facebook grupās, gan, protams, arī domas mājaslapā vai arī tie ir ēpasti. Mums ir ļoti cieša sadarbība un komunikācija ar apkaimju biedrībām, tā kā iespēja robežās izmantojam pilnīgi visus mūsu rīcībā esošos instrumentus. Nākamais ir atbalsts biedrībām un citām interešu grupām. Tur jau es vēlāk arī runāšu par dažiem atbalsta mehānismiem, bet idejiski mēs arī uz nākotni esam jau domājuši arī par vairākiem jauniem atbalsta mehānismiem, bet šis ir arī tas, kur varbūt nepieciešama kāda konsultācija. Nevienam nav noslēpums, ka Rīgas pašvaldība ir ļoti liela un, protams, arī tas birokrātiskais aparāts, kas ir pašvaldībā, lai nodrošinātu visas tās funkcijas, ir ārkārtīgi liels un cilvēkam no malas arī pietiekami sarežģīts. Lai nebūtu biedrībām vai kādām interešu grupām pašām jāmēģina saprast, kurš ir kompetentais cilvēks vai kompetentā iestāde, pie kura vērsties, tad šis ir tas atbalsts, ko koordinators sniedz. Jūs atnākat ar savu jautājumu vai problēmu pie koordinatoru, un jums nav jāzvana 5, 7 vai 10 tālruņa numuriem, lai saprastu, kam adresēt šo jautājumu, bet koordinators jums palīdzēs izbrist caur šiem birokrātijas džungļiem un atrast īsto cilvēku, īsto kontaktu, īsto iestādi. Runājot par iedzīvotāju līdzdalības veicināšanu, esam arī šeit spēruši jau pirmos soļus, bet pilnīgi noteikti šis ir viens no nākotnes jautājumiem, jo nenolieksim, ka Latvijā iedzīvotāju līdzdalība ir samērā zema, neskatoties uz to, ka mums ir arī gana daudz aktīvu cilvēku, bet tomēr, ja mēs proporcionāli paskatāmies, ko apliecina arī pētījumi, mums līdz Skandināvijas līdzdalības līmenim vēl ir ļoti, ļoti tāls ceļš ejams. Bet mēs esam ceļa sākumā, mēs esam gatavi šim ceļam, un kā jau arī domas priekšsēdētājs apliecināja, no pašvaldības puses mēs darīsim visu, lai nodrošinātu šo līdzdalības iespēju, bet pretī, protams, sagaidām arī aktīvus iedzīvotājus. Vēl viena loma koordinatorim ir arī sadarbības Rīgas domas deputātiem un amatpersonām organizēšana. Šeit nav runa par to, ka koordinatori vienkārši sarunās jums vizīti pie deputāta vai amatpersonas, bet tad, kad ir runa par konceptuāliem tādiem problemātiskākiem jautājumiem, kur ir nepieciešama citu institūciju vai arī domas deputātu iesaistīšanās, tad tas ir tas veids un brīdis, kad apkaimju koordinators palīdzēs šo te sadarbību veidot un veicināt. Un, protams, tāds visizaicinošākais mērķis uz nākotni vērsts, kur es arī tā kā pati varbūt redzu, es nezinu, pēc 5, 7 gadiem, kad mums katrai apkaimē būs sava attīstības vīzija, kuru mēs tad varēsim soli pa solim arī kopā ar pašvaldību un iedzīvotāju arī īstenot. Bet, lai tāda vīzija taptu, viņa ir jāinicē, jāstrādā pie šī, un tad jau mēs tā kā varētu likt visas šīs lietas arī attīstības plānos un to visu arī ieviest. Nenoliedzam jau, kā mēs runājām, šobrīd mēs esam varbūt tādā līmenī, ka mums ir gan pandēmijas dēļ, gan arī varbūt jauno pārmaiņu dēļ, mēs diezgan reaģējam uz konkrētām lietām, mēģinam varbūt tās kaut kā dzēst ugunsgrēku kaut kādos daudzos jautājumos, bet ja mēs varētu tā plānveidīgi virzīties uz to un tā iet mērķtiecīgi uz priekšu, tas būtu noteikti tas, pie kā mēs gribētu pieturēties un tādā veidā arī darboties uz priekšu. Šo slaidu jūs jau redzējāt, šo bildi jūs jau redzējāt, mums ir 5 koordinatori, bet jāsaka, tuvākajā brīdī mainīsies šī bilde, jo īstenībā uz šodienu mums jau ir 6 apkaimju iedzīvotāju centra koordinatori. Mums ir nācis klāt vēl viens cilvēks Pārdaugavā, un drīz jau jūs redzēsiet arī jaunāku bildīt, un mēs ļoti, ļoti ceram, ka nākamā gada sākumā mums pievienosies arī 7. koordinators, jo redzam to, ka koordinatoru darbība ir pozitīvi novērtēta. Gribētos teikt gan jau par padarīto, gan arī nedaudz avansā, bet ir skaidrs, ka mums ir jāaudzē sava kapacitāte, jo, lai mēs varētu reaģēt, tā kā arī Mārs Jansons teica, ne tikai labi sāk darboties, bet arī turpināt labi darboties, mums ir jāpaplašinās un mums ir vajadzīgi vēl koordinatori, lai mēs varētu pilnvērtīgi nosakt visas Rīgas apkaimes un pievērsties katrai no apkaimēm tieši tik daudz, cik tas ir nepieciešams. Jā, par līdzdalības budžetu šodien jau arī tika pieminēts. Es neatkārtošos, gribu tikai teikt, ka Rīga pie šī Rīgā līdzdalības budžets darbojas jau 3 gadus, 3. gadu, un katru gadu mēs esam gājuši soli pa solim uz priekšu, lai arvien vairāk uzlabotu šo procesu. Arī šogad esam identificējuši lietas, kuras būtu jāuzlabo uz nākotni. Tas ir gan nedaudz pie paša procesa, kā viņu uzlabot un kā padarīt šo ideju iesniegšanu vienkāršāku pašiem iesniedzējiem, gan biedrībām, gan arī vienkārši fiziskām personām, vairāk viņas konsultējot un sniedzot šādu veidu atbalstu. Kā arī, protams, viens no ļoti būtiskajiem jautājumiem ir tieši šo te atbalstīto un uzvarēšanu un atbalstīto projektu īstenošanas procesa pātrināšana. Jā, un tad mums esošais atbalsts arī apkaimju biedrībām. Mums ir tā laima un privilēģija Rīgā, ka diezgan daudzās apkaimēs mums ir savas apkaimju biedrības. Ja mēs tā statistiski paskatāmies, tad no mūsu 58 apkaimēm vairāk nekā pusē šādas biedrības jau mums ir. Un tāpēc, lai viņas varētu arī tā kā efektīvāk darboties, pašvaldība šogad ir sākusi sniegt arī viņām tādu nelielu finansiālu atbalstu. Iespējams, ka uz nākamajiem gadiem tās summas mainīsies un kļūs arī lielākas. Katrā ziņā tas ir tāds pirmais atspēriena punkts, kas šogad arī ir ieviests. Un pēc pirmās daļas es arī nedaudz papildināju savu prezentāciju ar dažiem izaicinājumiem, ar kuriem mēs saskaramies. Jau pieminētā sadarbības ar pašvaldības institūcijām. Arī mēs esam tie, kas varbūt tās ar iedzīvotājiem komunicē uz āru. Ja nevis vairāk, tad pilnīgi noteikti ļoti daudz, un mums ir nepieciešams atbalsts no mūsu kolēģiem citos departamentos un citās struktūrvienībās. Un nešaubīgi, ka mēs labprāt redzētu vēl ciešāku un vienkāršāku un ātrāku šo sadarbību, bet es arī saredzu to, ka mēs būsim arī ļoti labs atbalsts citām pašvaldības institūcijām arī šīs te komunikācijas un tādas informācijas aprits jomā. Jo tas var būt viens no tādiem pārmetumiem, arī tā skaitā līdzdalības budžeta konkursa ietvaros bija tas, kad institūcijas nekomunicē ar projektu iesniedzējiem, bet es arī saprotu varbūt to problēmu, jo tie cilvēki, kas ir atbildīgi šo projektu īstenošanu, tas nav viņu galvenais uzdevums, viņi nav komunikācija cilvēki, viņi to neprot, viņi varbūt dažkārt arī baidās to darīt, un līdz ar to, ziniet, no kā mēs varam tā kā atteikties, tad to mēs arī tā kā cenšamies nedarīt. Un es domāju, ka mēs varētu būt ļoti labs atbalsts šajā jomā, un palīdzēt nodrošināt šo te informatīvo un savstarpējās sadarbības saikni. Protams, ka diezgan liels izaicinājums arī bija sabiedrības gaidas un pašvaldības iespējas. Jau redzot to, kādas ir iedzīvotāju vēlmes, ir skaidrs, un es domāju arī tad, kad tiek veidots gan pašvaldības, gan valsts budžets, mēs vienmēr redzam, ka tās vēlmes, arī naudiskā izteiksmē ir pārsniedz daudz reizes pārsniedz tās iespējas. Tas arī ir diezgan liels izaicinājums, kā šo te sabalansēt un kā arī paskaidrot iedzīvotājiem tās iespējas. Laika perspektīvā. Domāju, ka visi no jums ir saskārušies to, ka, ja cilvēks uzdod kaut kādu jautājumu vai identificēt kādu problēmu, ka tiek sagaidīta ļoti ātra reakcija, bet nevienmēr tas ir iespējams, un tas arī ir tāds izaicinājums, kā līdzsvarot šo te gan atbildes sniegšanu, gan arī problēmas atrisināšanu tādā saprātīgā laikā, bet saprotot arī to, ka to nevar izdarīt 24 stundu laikā, arī atsevišķos jautājumos arī pāris gadu laikā. Esam jau arī saskārušies arī ar lietām, kad divām ieinteresētajām pusēm ir pilnīgi pretējas intereses. Un tad kā jau šeit arī koordinātori ir darbojušies, gan kā mediātori, kad ir jau Māra pieminētais gadījums Norveķu parkā, kur arī ir iegādāts īpašums, kurā privāti īpašnieks šobrīd ir norobežojis dīķi, pie kura cilvēki bija pieraduši, un kur viņi vēlējās nākt pastaigāties un barot putnus un tam līdzīgi. Tad arī mūsu koordinators organizēja tādu sarunu ar visām iesaistītajām pusēm, gan ar biedrību, gan ar īpašnieku, gan ar pašvaldības institūcijām, lai skaidrotu, kāpēc šis īpašums tika nodots privāta īpašumā, kādas ir privāta īpašnieka tiesības, kādi ir viņa plāni, ko sagaida biedrība un kā visām šīm pusēm kopā sadzīvot un kādas ir šīs situācijas attīstības perspektīvas. Kā jau minēju, mums ir daudz apkaimju biedrību, un tomēr vēl ir diezgan liela daļa apkaimju, kurās šāda biedrība nav. Tad pilnīgi noteikti viens no tādiem izaicinājumiem un atbalsta punktiem koordinatoriem ir arī jaunu apkaimju biedrību veidošanās process, jo nešaubīgi, ka vislabākais un efektīvākais veids, kā plānot apkaimes attīstību un identificēt problēmas, ir tas, ja mums ir cilvēki šajās apkaimēs, kuri var jau, kā saka, no iekšienes identificēt un stāstīt par šīm problēmām un meklēt risinājumus. Un jau manis pieminētā arī iedzīvotāju aktivizēšana līdzdalībai, sadarbībai un līdzatbildībai, jo neapšaubām mēs kā pašvaldība varam būt ļoti atvērti līdzdalībai, bet mums ir arī vajadzīgi, kā saka, iedzīvotāji, kas ir gatavi līdzdarboties, kas ir gatavi sadarboties un kas ir caur šo savu līdzdalību arī gatavi būt līdzatbildīgi par tām lietām, kas notiek pilsētā. Lūk, tas ir tāds mans īsais stāsts. Paldies!
Lielas paldies, Ilona, par izvērsto prezentāciju un to, ka atbildējāt uz jautājumiem. Pirms es paspēju uzdot tā ļoti tāda proaktīva gatavošanās. So thank you very much, Ilona. As I was said, Ilona already responded to the questions before I asked them, and I think it's called a proactive creation, like preparation for the event, so it's great. As we heard about Riga, and just to recap, in the last year, Riga has established and opened the neighborhood centers, and obviously they are growing and becoming stronger and also learning about the needs and capabilities in the process. And it's great that we have them, but it's also great that we can look over the Baltic Sea towards Helsinki, Finland, and also learn from their best practices. And with that being said, I wish to give floor to our next speaker, who is from Helsinki, Finland, as I said, Pauli Saloranta, who is a Helsinki Municipality Borough Liaison of Southern Eastern District. And I'm sorry, Pauli, if I didn't say it correctly. If you know, Greek languages are not my strong suit, but I invite Pauli to give us a presentation about experiences and lessons learned and borough liaison concept and its and how it's run in city of Helsinki. Pauli, the floor is yours. If you could also turn on the camera and share your presentation, it would be wonderful. And thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay, because I have started the video, but I'm not sure if the picture is also visible there.
No, we cannot see the picture.
Okay, I don't know why this is, because in the beginning of the show, I think it was I was seeing it. Anyways, I'll try to share my screen, and I hope this will work.
Yes, all is fine. Please share your screen, and we are eager to see your presentation. Yes, we can see it.
I'm sharing it now. Is it visible?
Yes.
And now I play the play button. I hope it's still visible.
Yes.
Okay, good. Then we can go. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about the experiences in hell. My name is Pauli, and I work for the city. Also, I have a long background of citizen activism. both as an individual activist and in the organized neighborhood movement. And now I have changed sides, so to speak. I will give you some context and then the picture of our model for participation, which includes both borough liaisons and the participatory budgeting. The big picture, the large context, of course, is a long tradition of democracy, but also of bureaucracy. But on the same time, the situation is changing a lot. As you know, the city is growing rapidly. All the capital cities, I think, nowadays grow, and rural cities are declining. Even our slow growth scenario means that a lot of new residents will be here. But what about the residents? They are not the same. Population is aging and it is becoming more diverse. Here is the diagram of the languages, but I must point out that the Finnish sector certainly is not homogeneous. We are not alike all. Maybe you have heard of the bubbles. There are a lot of these kind of small bubbles, and so there cannot be only one culture anymore. Also, physically, the city is changing. We do not grow outwards, we grow inwards. We turn former harbors into very dense new districts. This means more encounter, more physical nearness. This is a diagram of the persons per hectare. We can see that, for example, Oslo had this kind of urban turn already in the 80s. Now Helsinki is experiencing something similar. Then the mental change. City wants to be a platform and let activists do new stuff. For example, a former hospital has been turned into North Europe's biggest technical startup hub, and we want this kind of activism to grow. And what about new questions? In the carbon climate, maybe there is more flooding. Maybe we get hundreds of thousands of water refugees. How does this mean to participation? Anyway, the former mayor, Jan Vapaavuori, said a few years ago that participation is the new success factor of cities because they have the advantage of close connection with citizens. So, the answer is the model of participation from 2016. It was part of a management system renewal, which meant a complete organizational overhaul. This model of participation does more than the law requires of us. I won't go into a lot of detail, but I want to stress out that the goal is not like-mindedness. We can't try to get a unanimous opinion anymore, but we need to have a fair process so that people can agree to disagree, so to say. We should increase understanding of the different opinion, understanding of the values and respect. We already have a lot of good practices, but this must extend to the entire organization. Participation cannot be something extra. It has to be part of all city work. 3 principles in the core. We want to utilize the know-how of individuals and communities. We want to enable voluntary activity. For example, a swimming club may do their own hole in the ice. And of course, we want to create equal opportunities for all kinds of citizens. One example is the Hanami Park, the cherry tree park in southeastern district, where the city had this extension planning for this part, which was done in close cooperation with the local activists and the organizers of the Hanami Festival, because they are very good experts of the Japanese culture. Here is a brief summary of all kinds of ways to participate in Helsinki. I'm not going to read through all this, but I want to point out a few things. It is decided. Certainly very familiar to you too. Also, the consultative bodies for special interests like seniors and disabled are still in place. But in addition to this, we have added a lot. Volunteering in the city has been growing before the COVID pandemic, of course, but still we think it will resume after the pandemic. We are expanding digital reach by skill training for 50,000 seniors each year. Open data has been growing very rapidly in 10 years. There is a decision archive where anyone can search for any decision made in a city body and there is also a search field that you don't have to know the exact date and time.
Pauli, I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but your picture went missing. So I'm going to share my screen and you can continue from there.
Okay, interesting.
So let me just find the correct slide. I think you were
Yes, I think it was on
10 branches of participation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And yeah, and then the work in boroughs, where I will go in a little more detail. About participatory budgeting, we have actually 4 different PB processes on the city level, district level, special youth participatory budgeting, and school participatory budgetings. And now the next slide, please. Thank you, Cynthia. Here, you skipped. Yeah, just briefly. Okay, you're changing a lot of them. Here is one example of the aerial work. I invited activists and city experts for a certain island into the same boat, and we made a field trip to that island and got to know each other better. And I'm sure this helped them discuss also the critical issues. Now, if you can actually go one slide back. Thank you. There was this map. Here, excellent. As in Riga, where you have 5 coordinators, in Helsinki there are 7 of us, could be called also coaches or participation consultants. We help people help themselves. We do not advocate anyone's issue, but we want them to be able to do it themselves in the city's vast organization. We try to be as familiar in the area as possible so that it is easy to connect and ask help. We want to increase citizen capability and remove obstacles. And one tool for this is the participatory budgeting. The budgeting has some goals for itself, but for us, it is a tool to increase people's capabilities and also lower the obstacles for participation. Then let's go to the next and the next one as well. Number 21, I think, would be correct. I'm also in the end, a few remarks on the participatory budgeting. We have the second run for the citywide budgeting. It has 8.8 million euros at the moment, which was doubled from season 1. It means about 14 euros per capita at the moment. And next slide, please. Here is a documentation of season 1. I want to stress out that the participatory budgeting process creates participation opportunities in every phase. In ideas phase, anyone can propose. They can get information to support the ideation. They can also get online support. Then there is evaluation, and the second phase is co-development, where the authors of the ideas are invited to the same table with city specialists. This is very laborious phase for the city units, but it creates intensive participation over a certain issue. We had almost 1,000 people in this process in the first round. It was the largest co-creation process ever in Helsinki. Then as for voting, it is completely electronical. In our case, it is the largest electronic vote in Finland in public administration, because as you know, Finland hasn't implied the electronic vote in general elections. All residents over 12 years old could vote. We want to kind of educate them for democracy at the same time. And the voting percentage was 8.6, which is very good in international comparison concerning participatory budgeting. And about implementation, over 50% of the projects were completed last spring, and actually the recent number would be over 80% today. Next slide, please. Here is a picture of the co-development event in North Helsinki. There are the buzz and the feeling was quite intense, as maybe the picture can tell also. For example, the man in the left in the suite who has a computer behind his back, his name is Morten, and in that computer there is every building and every location that the city owns, every property where you could do something. And then when somebody needed a house or a place for action, they just went to Morten and asked, please, can you show what kind of facilities do you have available? Next slide, please. Okay, that's about it in a very nutshell. There is a new web site for participation in Helsinki, which also has English version, which is in this address. So I thank you for this brief introduction into participation in Hel, and I'm willing to discuss and answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pauli. It was a very, very beautiful presentation. I was thinking about that all, and now we can see you. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. You have joined us in the person as well. No, there's nothing to be sorry about. The presentation was great, and I have many questions to ask you, but I'm going to leave them for a later discussion when we can discuss between the participants. So thank you very much. And in a nutshell, the district coordination is quite active in Helsinki, and there are quite a few neighborhood liaisons or boroughs. And I promised that I'm going to learn how to pronounce it, and the conference is here. Now I can say it, so it's wonderful. But with the summary of Helsinki, let's move away from northern country of Finland to Lithuania and Viļņas. And today we are joined by two great experts, Daiva Mikulskiene and Neringa Simson from Viļņas. And Daiva and Neringa is going to present us how Viļņas works with citizens and talk about such concept as elderships. And with that being said, I'm going to give the floor to Daiva and Neringa to co-present their presentation. And then afterwards, we're going to move back a bit north to Estonia. And then we are coming to a discussion. So Daiva, Neringa, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, friends. I am Daiva Mikulskiene. I am responsible for the activities of Viļņas elderships and local communities. Viļņas has been divided into elderships since 1990. Over the past 30 years, the nature of the activities of the elderships was changing because the idea of self-government was changing too. However, the elderships have always played a significant role in community life, in Viļņas community life. And my colleague Neringa is going to give you a short overview of eldership activities in Viļņas too.
Hello, everyone. Let's start our presentation about the main opportunities for citizens to get involved in the decision-making process. In our city, in Viļņas, we have main tools for exploring the needs of the citizens. And there are elderships, local community, and active residents. Let's start from eldership. Eldership is a branch of the city's administration, and Viļņas is divided into 21 districts, elderships. The average number of residents in eldership from 12,000 to 50,000. The head of eldership is elder, whose term is 5 years. So Riga and Helsinki have coordinators, we have elders, 21 elders. Elder is an employee of Viļņas City Municipality Administration, and he is directly subordinated by the Director of Administration. Eldership team consists of 3 or 4 employees, and each eldership has its own quarters. About eldership's partners and with whom elderships are working with, there are sub-elders. Sub-elders are the elected representatives of communities. Their status is established by law. And in Viļņas are elected 157 sub-elders. There are also local communities. We have 60 active community associations and, of course, many active residents. There are our elderships, 21 elderships. Briefly about functions of the eldership. Eldership, next one, please. Eldership provides the administrative service for residents, for example, declaration of a place of residence, permits for trading in a public place, and so on. Elderships are in charge of maintaining public spaces and property, seasonal works, snow cleaning, haymaking, leaves removal, and other. But these works are performed by private companies. With a assigned city budget, eldership organizes local works, repair of benches, walkways, renewal of athletic fields, and provides support for cultural initiatives. The residents are informed about various planned works, considered plans, and possible solutions of the problems. And one of the goals of strategic development plan of Viļņas City is to enable elderships as resident informing centers. Involving residents to participate in municipal decisions-making processes, and one way is the participatory budget procedure in eldership. So shortly about participatory budget and opportunities for residents to participate in the decision-making processes. Participatory budget started in Viļņas this year, but it's more a prototype of a participatory budget pilot project. So this time the pilot project is taking place just in 3 elderships. It's about 90,000 residents. The main organizers are elders, and residents of 3 elderships had possibility to make decision about spending 64,000 euros. To compare, Viļņas city budget is 100,000 euros. The biggest possible threats of the project were a voting process arrangement. Votes can be made electronically, but not every resident uses electronic services. And votes can be made in person at eldership quarter. Just 2 ways to vote. Communication management. In our situation, there was almost no funding for communication, so people weren't so active in this project. And different involvement of the residents. The main benefits of this project is human-centered service. It's about bigger opportunity to involve residents into solutions. The municipality may find out what people need most in the city, what we care about, and it lessens distance between the government, between the municipality and the citizens. participatory budget is the one way how we can know about the needs of residents. And another benefit opportunity for eldership trust management. And some conclusions about elderships. It's more threats or problems that we have with elderships. Different experience level and competences of elderships and their employees. It's about management and coordination. Differences in the assurance of the standard of services and communication with the residents. It's about possible differences. Increased responsibility of the elderships and lack of funding and lack of employees, because the control of works and tasks is getting stronger all the time. The elderships differ in size and social status of their residents. And maybe the main problem, different involvement of the residents. So maybe that's it about our experience. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm repeating myself, but such a beautiful presentation. It looked just very inspiring. And I really like the name eldership. I've been talking with my colleagues. Eldership is such a nice name. So I'm just very happy about that. So maybe we can borrow it. And we also have comments to you and the previous speaker. It's very inspiring. A lot of great ideas to borrow. So it's great to hear that. Thank you very much, Neringa and Daiva. And we started with Riga, then we went to Helsinki.
Just a moment.
Yes. So we started in Riga, we went to Helsinki, then we went to Viļņas. Was there something else you wanted to tell? Or okay, so we're going to get back to you in the discussion when we have discussion.
Some technical problems
no, everything is fine. Don't worry. We can we can take out our
presentation
and put on the next one. So no worries. As I said, our geographical trip is very odd today, but our final stop is Tallinn, Estonia. In the previous seminars, we also have had the pleasure to meet with people from Tartu, but today we are joined by Mikhail Yevdokimov from Tallinn, and Mikhail is Tallinn Municipality City Center District Administration Representative. And Mikhail is going to talk with us about working with the citizens, but not only. Tallinn also has introduced participatory budgeting this year, so very happy to hear about that. And I'm going to give floor to Mikhail, who is going to talk more about how Tallinn works, and then we're going to open a discussion, and all of the attendees watching us on Zoom and also Facebook are invited to ask questions that we're going to forward further to the speakers. But with that being said, Mikhail, the floor is yours.
Hello to everyone, and thank you for providing the opportunity. I will now try to share my screen. Does everyone see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Now we can try to change slides. What do we do it? Yeah. So once again, thank you very much for giving me the floor. And I will talk about today about Tallinn's participatory budget, which is taking place second year in a row this year in Tallinn city. So the idea of a participatory budget in Tallinn is very simple, and it is divided into 3 steps. The first step is that all residents of Tallinn during a certain period of time are able to submit their ideas about what can be improved in the city. It concerns such things as what can be built in the city streets, regarding the different possibilities of citizens to spend free time and leisure, such as playgrounds or sporting grounds, but it can also be anything which is concerned with the city and its development. That's the first step. On the second step, expert committee evaluates the feasibility of those ideas submitted And those ideas which do pass the evaluation then are put up for the public vote. And lastly, those ideas which have gained the most votes by the public are implemented in different districts of Tallinn city. Tallinn city has 8 districts, so that means that at least 8 ideas from every district is implemented throughout the year with the participatory budget's money. However, district administrations are not restricted to implementing only one idea, and if they wish so, they can implement more than one idea and actually take into consideration all other proposals which were submitted during the participatory budget. Now, how that process ensures the transparency of this whole project? Well, first of all, when we're talking about participatory budget and the money which is allocated through it, the ideas which are submitted should concern objects and facilities which are meant for the public use and free to access. So one cannot submit an idea, for example, building a swimming pool in his private local housing yard, because that will not be free, accessible to all the citizens. But secondly, the expert committee evaluates the feasibility and the compliance of those projects with the requirements of a participatory budget only. That means it does not make any judgments about the ideas themselves. Simply put, the committee doesn't tell whether they like the idea or not. This is the thing that the public will decide further on, but the committee will simply evaluate whether that idea will fit into the amount of money which is allocated through the participatory budget, and whether that idea actually serves for the public good and will be freely accessible to all the residents of the city. And lastly, but very importantly, the final decision is made by the residents themselves, and they do it via the public vote. So they decide which of the ideas is the one that they would like to see in the city district to be implemented. The process itself, once again, is through the 3 different steps. And in the year 2021 and 22, we are now in the final stage of the participatory budget. So we already collected the ideas, we already selected the ones which will actually go to the final and go up for the vote. We already made them public to the public, and now starting from Monday, everyone can participate in the voting and select the ones which they would like to see implemented in the following year in the city. Our budget is not that impressive as Helsinki ones, but it's still something. It's about 1 million euros, which is divided among 8 different districts. And the 75% of that money is divided equally, and the 25% is divided according to the number of residents every district have. So roughly speaking, every district will receive from 115,000 to 150,000 euros to implement the winning ideas. Now, why it is important? Well, first of all, why it is important for the citizens and for the residents themselves? Because it creates the three-way inclusion of residents. The first link is a great platform for emergence of the ideas. Since the ideas are provided by the residents themselves, they give a direct feedback of what we would like to see in the city, and they engage with the city authorities by those means. But it also increases active citizenships, because in the end, those who vote and those who actually will decide what ideas will be implemented are the residents themselves also. But also it creates and increases coherency and a sense of a community. And why is that? This is because in order for your idea to be implemented, you need to win in a vote. And the best way to win in a vote is to cooperate with others to gain support and to promote your idea through local communities, and by that to gain votes. So this mechanism also in itself motivates different residents to communicate with each other and with city authorities, and by that increase coherency, communication and cooperation within local communities. But it is also a great benefit to the city itself. Well, first of all, it solidifies the cooperation with the residents. Since the ideas are implemented in the close cooperation with the ideas authors, it makes a very good tool of actually sitting together around one table and discussing all the projects which have been submitted and gain the most popularity through the public vote. But it also provides local governments with direct feedback about what residents' wishes are, what are their needs, and governments are free to actually take those ideas and to implement them on their own, even if those ideas do not win in the in this voting system. Yes, it will be done not with the participatory budget money, but still district administrations is free to actually take those ideas and to implement them. And lastly, it helps to achieve city strategic development goals, because the goal of the city is to develop, and we would like to make city better for every citizen and every resident by actually developing the infrastructure, developing the possibilities of leisure and free time spending activities and so on. And what is the better way to do it is that to ask the residents themselves what they want in the city to be implemented, and what is their wishes to actually for the city to do for that. Now, if you look at the participatory budget from the last year and right now, what stands out is that although the amount of the ideas proposed is a little bit less than the last idea, the amount of the ideas that actually went through is bigger. So it's 132 compared to 99 last year. And what it means, or what it signals, is that participatory budget is becoming people are becoming more acquainted with the participatory budget on one hand, but on another hand, it becomes an essential part of city planning and budgeting, and people already see how it works and already getting a great use out of it. And lastly, I would like to show you a small clip, small video of an idea which have won via the participatory budget last year in the city center district. This is the drinking taps with clear water, which were installed in several places and which are very great use for those people who walk around, do sports, and sometimes need clean water to drink during those activities. And with that, I conclude my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, also a very beautiful presentation. And I see that I'm very happy that there are very similar trends of things happening in the Baltic states and also in our northern neighbors, the Finland. As you can see that there is a progress. And I think that we can see that there is progress in terms of listening to citizens and trying to hear their ideas. As we can see that Riga has instated having a participatory budgeting, but not only, also Tallinas. Viļņas had this very unique experience of involving senior citizens of population in the in those practices of citizen involvement, which is great if we look at the demographic situation of our countries. And then, of course, we also have Helsinki, which is very, very active in terms of both participatory budgeting, but also citizen involvement. So what I want to say that there are very good things we have in common, but I think there's also a lot of things that we can do even better. And with this, I'm going to open the discussion, and I'm going to invite all the speakers, presenters back to join the Zoom. And I'm going to ask questions to all of you, and whoever feels most comfortable to respond, please feel free to jump in, and we can just develop discussion there further. Also, if you feel comfortable, like answering in Latvia, there are only 2 people who can, but if you feel comfortable, also feel free to respond like that. So my first question is, how did your municipality decide to have these forms of involvement? Like, how did you decide that you need district organizers or borough liaisons, or like, how did you get to this idea?
Should I raise hand?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. The choice of this kind of method within the larger participation model was really a reaction to the wishes of the people's activists and several focus groups and polls and questionnaires during the development of the participation model. The most frequent wish from the citizens was actually to have help in interaction with the city. And then on the other hand, the city has decided long ago not to establish any new bodies like aerial committees with some kind of small budget and small a small number of maybe politicians or other active people within. Instead, we want to engage everybody. So the philosophy is, I would say, the philosophy is individual participation with strong support for silent groups. And this leads to the idea of 7 borough liaisons.
Thank you very much. If anyone else wants to continue on this idea and further talk about how your city decided that participatory budgeting or district coordination centers or elderships also are needed. So whoever feels free, feel free to jump in.
Jā, varbūt es varu pārņemt stafeti. Ja mēs runājam Rīgā par līdzdalības budžetu, tad jāsaka, ka tā bija Apkaimju organizāciju iniciatīva. Viņi pirms 3 gadiem, vai nedaudz vairāk kā pirms 3 gadiem, atnāca pie izpildirektora un teica, mēs vēlamies. Un man jāsaka tā liels prieks par to, ka izpildirektora personā viņa atrada tiešām dzirdīgas ausis, un viņš tiešām bija patrons šim te līdzdalības budžeta izveidošanai Rīgā. Jā, un šobrīd šī ideja tiešām ir atradusi vietu mūsu pilsētā, un mēs mēģinam rast ceļus, kā to arvien labāk uzlabot. Jā, bet tā tiešām bija iniciatīva no pašām biedrībām, kas tika ieviesta dzīvē.
Paldies, and thank you. Just to recap, I think that all of you managed to find that there's an interpretation button to hear the translation from Latvian to English, but this was a grassroots idea. So the activists were the ones that wanted to have something, and I think it's great that that we have this bottom-up approach to these ideas. Michael, maybe you want to also add something on this topic.
Yeah, this is interesting because the experience of Tallinn is a little bit different. So we also have people who are kind of responsible for communicating with the city and the city authorities, but those are the local activists themselves, and they are not hired by the city. But as far as I understand, they do implement and do probably exactly the same work of being the bridge between the local community and the authorities of a certain district within the city of Tallinn. The only difference being is that they are not paid by the Tallinn city and are not affiliated with the authorities themselves. And yeah, the initiative is also from the bottom to up, but the form it takes is a little bit different, and it is very interesting to notice.
Thank you. If Daiva or Neringa, you want to respond, feel free. If not, we can also move on to the other questions and then just get back.
Our municipality enables residents to participate in the management of municipal affairs in the following ways, maybe 3 ways, the main ways. Informing residents, so it's about the planned and performed works in their neighborhood. Consultation with residents, so we have surveys, meetings, forums with residents, and involving residents in decision making. It's about election of elders, election of our sub-elders, involvement of residents in working groups, commissions for solving specific issues. And now at this moment we have the main tool, participatory budget.
Thank you, thank you. As I said, it's really good to see that. I think that participatory budgeting is not something extremely new. We know it was in Latin America and South America, and it was established Brazil and the towns there. So it's great that it has come here, but it's a relatively new thing in this part of the world, in the Baltics and in Finland, and also as in Riga, it came also from the activists. I'm also happy to say that I remember when this concept was to say born in Riga, how it wasn't easy. Of course, it wasn't easy to introduce something like that in Riga, but it's already the 3rd year. I think it's the 3rd year, or it's the 2nd year. But anyway, it's already working here, and the people are applying, and that's really great. And now that we have had some kind of ideas and initiatives, my question is, what have you learned from them that you would recommend others to do, but also not to do? Like the good practices and the bad practices that you as an expert would tell others. What we should do and what we maybe shouldn't do if we want to start something. So again, whoever feels the most comfortable, just feel free to respond. So maybe we can go geographically, like we start with Helsinki, then we come back downstairs. Not to say downstairs, we come further south.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, what to say about not to do. I don't know if it can be put that way, but I think one drawback, which was already, I think, mentioned in all of these participatory budgeting examples, is that it is very laborious, very work intensive for the city units. And this is certainly a challenge for us. We are currently planning the 3rd season of the participatory budgeting, and we want to make it lean. We want to make it more efficient internally, and we are going through a major development at the moment. So that it will be. There was also this question in the chat: how much did it cost? We do not have an exact number, but there have been estimation that it cost more to run the PB process than the amount of money used for the projects, and that means it is very costly. But on the other hand, participation is always costly. It is always very much work demanding, and the results then must be gained in some longer time. So the difficulty is how to equalize the short-term cost with the long-term benefit. then on the good side, I think what has been so far successful is the idea of the individual participation in contrast with societal or some kind of group participation, which has been the tradition. We have also been working with the local neighborhood associations for many decades in Helsinki, since the 1960s, when these neighborhood associations began to emerge. They have been the main channel for ordinary citizens to speak with the administration. But nowadays we want to offer more doors. We do not neglect the associations. They are certainly very important partners to us, and they continue to offer the voice of the people. But then in addition to this, we want to offer the normal citizen, the ordinary citizen, a way to speak directly and not forcing them to join some group or wait for the mandate for some other organization. And I feel that this is a basic thing about democracy.
Thank you very much. Very similar to what Ilona had in her presentation, you also are responding to the questions I haven't asked yet, proactively covering them. So that was that's very good that we are on the same page, and also we see the same issues that need to be responded and the questions that need to have an answer or answers. So maybe from Helsinki, we can go to Tallinn, and the same question. Maybe there are some lessons learned and both good and bad that you would like to share. And it especially goes when we talk about municipalities who yet or still don't have any kind of or this kind of citizen involvement practices. So maybe there's something you would like to tell them beforehand, what they could learn before starting something and what would help them.
Yes, there are two probably things that I would like to mention. So I conducted a study this spring when I interviewed different officials from the Tallinn city districts, which do work in the local administrations. And one of the findings which were very interesting to me and a kind of an eye-opening was that although every one of them kind of told me that inclusion and cooperation is important, the understanding of what the inclusion and cooperation is actually differed very, very much. So for some of them, it was very nuanced kind of communicative and decision-making process, but for others, actually, any participation in the district administration activities, for example, using the district administration services, were already an enough criteria to read it as an inclusion. And I think that the unification of what the standards for the good practices of the inclusion is can be the first step in moving forward towards implementing those practices, because if we do not know what we do, how can we do it? So that is probably the one important thing. And the second thing was that, again, during the discussions, there were a lot of focus on those who we involve and who participate, but many times those who are left behind were not in the focus of those activities. So that opened, this opens the discussion of what the real inclusion should look like and how to reach those people who potentially will be willing to actually participate in those inclusion processes, but for some reasoning right now are not doing it. Because in many circumstances, simply providing opportunity is not enough for people to actually use that opportunity. I can bring you the example of inclusion when the road construction, of building construction in Tallinas city is taking place. Although on paper you have the ability to say your word of what you would like to do and how it would be better to look like, in reality, the language which is used in those documents is so specific and is so narrow, is that unless you're able to understand very, very specific and very, very technical terms, you will not be actually able to understand, and by that you will be deterred from actually participating in that process to begin with, because you simply have no clue of what is going on. So this is also one of the things which actually worth noticing and worth addressing and planning when you do have and when you do face the process of planning inclusion and inclusion activities.
Thank you very much. And our geographical stop, the next one is Riga. And now I'm switching to Latvian. So everyone English speaking can go to the interpretation, switch to Latvian English. Un, Ilona, jūs jau pieminējāt lietas, kas ir iemācītas, un arī kaut kādas lietas, ko varētu labāk darīt, bet varbūt dzirdot citus runātājus, jums radās vēl kādas idejas, mācības, ko jūs gribētu arī citiem pateikt, jā, šis strādā, šis ir labi, šo paņemiet, arī kaut kas tāds, šādi nedariet, tas nestrādā, varbūt ir citi veidi, kā to darīt.
Jā, gan klausoties kolēģis, gan arī mūsu pieredze, tas, ko nedarīt, varbūt mūsu gadījumā arī tiešām arī tas, pārmetumi, ko mēs esam līdz šim saņēmuši, ir noteikti nevajadzētu piekopt strausa politiku arī situācijās, kad varbūt lietas nevirzās tik labi, kā mēs gribētu un kā tas ir iecerēts. Runājot tiešām par līdzdalības budžeta projektiem, gan objektīvi, gan arī varbūt arī kaut kādu citu apstārumu dēļ, tie projekti netiek īstenoti tik ātri, kā to sagaida sabiedrība, bet par to ir jārunā un ir jādod atgriezeniskā saite, jo tiešām tas, ko pašas sabiedrības mums pārmet, ir tas, ka jā, projekts tika atbalstīts, un tad ar mums vairs neviens nesazinās. Mums, protams, ir arī labie piemēri, kur viss ir noticis un projekti ir pabeigti, bet ir arī tādas lietas, kad tieši tā arī biedrība saka, ar mums līdz šim pēc projekta apstiprināšanas neviens vairs nav sazinājies. Tas ir tas, ko mēs noteikti uz nākamo gadu plānojam mainīt. Un šajā gadījumā visticamāk, Apkaimju iedzīvotāju centrs arī būs tas galvenais komunikators un tās saiknes starp institūciju, kas īsteno šo projektu, ievieš dzīvē, tātad būtībā uzbūvē, un to projektu pieteicēju, lai jebkurā brīdī ir skaidrs, kādā stadijā, projekta īstenošanas stadijā mēs esam, kas notiek vai kas nenotiek tik labi, kā tam vajadzētu būt. Tā kā mēs plānojam noteikti šo te trūkumu labot. Un otra lieta, tas attiecas gan uz līdzdalības budžetu, gan vispār uz līdzdalību kā tādu, ir, ja mēs aktivizējam sabiedrību un mēs vēlamies, lai viņi sadarbotos, mums kā pašvaldībai ir jābūt gataviem arī lielai, teiksim tā, nodrošināt šo atgriezenisko saiti un pieņemt šo lielo līdzdalību. Ja mēs tam nebūsim gatavi, tas būs milzīgs mīnus un milzīgs solis atpakaļ, tad labāk iet soli pa solim lēnām uz priekšu, nekā ļoti aktivizēt vai izveidot ļoti daudz instrumentus, ar kuriem mēs paši pēc tam netiekam galā.
Paldies, and thank you. And I think that we're going to go further to the Viļņas, and while Viļņas thinks about something we could learn, I think it's absolutely true that what Pauli said, participation is expensive, but it's not only money that we're looking for, it's also how we communicate with people and how we give people power, and it's super important that we talk about that and we give them the empowerment. And Viļņas has this great example of elderships. As I said, we have an aging population, so we need to think how we involve them. So maybe Viļņas has something, what we should do. We don't have such a thing. What can we learn from you? And what maybe we shouldn't learn from you? Maybe you have some comments on that.
We would like maybe some advice from you, from I don't know, Tallinn, Riga, or Helsinki. I don't want to talk about the same problems. If we are talking about participatory budget, we think it's a great tool to know about needs of residents, a great tool to involve them. But our citizens, as I said, weren't so active in this project. So maybe some have suggestions about this. But our excuses is that this project is pilot project and started first year. So maybe it's our excuse about it.
And that's also my question, very similar to Neringa's. What can we do better to reach people? Because we have some people who are always active, right? We have this group, they're always everywhere, they do everything. But there are so many groups that are not. And again, we are going from Viļņas back to Helsinki. And also because Helsinki have been doing this for the longest time for also historical reasons, but not only. And maybe, how did you reach the groups that are not active? Like, how did you get people involved? Because that's not easy. It's so difficult to convince someone that they need to be involved. And how do you sell this idea to them that it's worth your time, it's worth getting involved in? And what are the benefits for you from this? How did you do it? How did you get to people? Because we talked with you a few weeks ago that you have so many projects and you have to evaluate so many participatory budgeting projects. How did you get to this point? What was the success key?
Well, I wouldn't call it a success yet. We are quite humble that we realize we have not reached enough. For example, the non-Finnish speaking, non-Finnish or Swedish speaking ethnical minorities are certainly not yet reached. We are now partnering with ethnical organizations. For example, there is one organization called the Neighborhood Mothers who collects women who have emigrated to Finland, and then they join this club and they share experiences. These are mostly professional people who are not, for example, refugees. Maybe they come for a job or for marriage or for other that kind of reasons. So they are capable of working on their own, but they maybe do not know the system or they feel uncomfortable. So it is easy for them to share and gain expertise. But now we are working with this organization, and then those women are actually now agents of the participatory budgeting for us. That is one way to find this kind of organizations. On the other hand, there is one organization called the African Care, who works with the Somali background new Helsinki residents. And they are in a completely different situation. And now this organization has their own groups and their own elders, and we do not try to replace them. It is important that we get these elders and their own teachers, these leaders, to speak for participation. And this is a slow work. We are at the moment building trust and learning with these people, how can this be done? But we understand that we can't just straight go to an individual person and expect them to be responsive. Then another thing is when you think about youth, school so far gathers all kinds of people in the same situation. The schooling system is so far quite in a quite good sense that it has not been differentiated too much, and we use schools to reach all kinds of young, and this is quite important for example, in the participatory budgeting, but also otherwise. And then we try to make our materials in as many languages as possible. But this brings a little dilemma. One gentleman from Iraq, who has been living in Finland for several years, was quite angry about the many languages that we offered in one focus group seminar where we were discussing our plans. He said very strongly that you must not offer too many languages because you should be teaching Finnish to all new residents. And he was quite certain that this was the right way. And there's a difference in policy that we are not sure which is the right way to go. At the moment, we try to translate our materials to as many languages as possible. So these are some thoughts on this very difficult subject.
And again, this goes back to my point that we have very many similarities. Helsinki, Tallinn, Riga, Viļņas are very multicultural cities. We have citizens from many ethnical and linguistic backgrounds. So I think, as you said, there is no right answer to this, and I think even though there is no right answer, we need to look at things that work for the citizens and not just for the principle's sake. So yeah, you have these teachings to say, these ideas for us to take, but maybe anything else to add to this point? So how do we reach people that are difficult to reach? And obviously, because they are difficult to reach, we haven't yet managed to reach all of them, but maybe someone has any ideas. So how do we reach youth or professionals who are always working, or newcomers, or youth, or seniors? I think I said youth twice, but youth again. How do we get to youth? Any ideas? Anyone?
Es nezinu, vai es pateikšu kādu jaunu ideju, kā viņus sasniegt, bet es ar skaudību klausījos par Pauliju teikto, ka viņi tulko daudzās valodās, jo mums ir otra problēma. Mēs Latvijā savukārt oficiāli nedrīkstam sniegt informāciju nevienā citā valodā, kā tikai latviešu valodā. Un tas savā ziņā rada problēmu, jo mūsu valodas likums pasaka to, ka mēs drīkstam tikai pēc pieprasījuma sniegt informāciju citās valodās. Bet kā lai tas cilvēks zina, ka viņam ir interese par šo jautājumu, jo viņš nevar saprast to informāciju, kas ir sniegta latviešu valodā? Protams, ka pamazām jau mums tā situācija iet uz labo pusi, un es teiktu tā, ka aktīvie un jaunie cilvēki, viņi, protams, zina latviešu valodu pietiekamā līmenī, un viņiem nav problēma iesaistīties. Bet, kā jau arī Mārs mums konferences pirmajā daļā pieminēja to, kad, jā, pirms pāris dienām mēs piedalījāmies vienā radio raidījumā krievu valodā, krievu radio, un tur tiešām skanēja tas, ka cilvēki nezina, piemēram, par šo pašu līdzdalības budžetu, krieviski runājošie. Jā, un šis ir ļoti liels izaicinājums. Kā viņus iesaistīt un kā viņus informēt, ja mums būtībā pēc likuma tas ir liegts sniegt šo informāciju citās valodās. Bet mēs pilnīgi noteikti meklēsim, ir daudz vienkāršāk šo jautājumu risināt digitāli. Tie cilvēki, kas ir sociālajos tīklos, viņus ir vieglāk sasniegt, un viņiem ir arī vieglāk nodrošināt šo līdzdalību. Lielāka problēma ir, protams, ar tiem, kas nav šajos digitālajos tīklos, kas nelieto sociālos tīklus, kas varbūt internetu pat nelieto, jā, vecāka gada gājuma, un, protams, arī citās valodās runājošie. Bet mēs pamazām meklējam šos veidus un ceļus. Protams, ka arī pandēmija mums savā ziņā ierobežojot šo te klātienes tikšanos, arī šo maziņu šo iespēju informēt, bet, jā, domāsim un mēģināsim saprast, kā mēs varam šo jautājumu risināt.
Paldies, and thank you. And so this is an ongoing discussion in Latvia. If we have limitations on how we can use language, how can we use the ones who do not primarily use the primary language? And Michael, because Riga and Tallinn have similar ethnic situations. So maybe you have any comments or ideas on this topic?
Yes, it is actually a very difficult question, because it is very difficult to measure when you do provide the opportunities for participation and inclusion and people do not participate. Do they do it because there are certain barriers which doesn't allow them to participate and they would otherwise do? Or is it that they simply don't want to participate and this is their own right? And to find out that and to actually have the definitive answer to that is a very, very, it's very difficult to do it. The only thing we can do is certainly be able to provide those opportunities and to spread them through via different channels as widely as we can. So what we do in Tallinn is that we do translate invitations to the participatory meetings, for example, or to open public discussions into 3 languages, being in addition to Estonian, English, and Russian. But we also try to work with the local communities, because in many instances, people do not trust the authorities, or they think that everything is predetermined and decided, or they think that this is not their life or it is not the part of them. But when we talk with the local communities, and when they see that other citizens like them do take part in those activities, and actually those activities do, those activities do end up in certain results being achieved, as for example, the last participatory budget very much added the trust in the process, because everyone can see right now on the streets of Tallinn 8 different ideas being implemented that can be visibly touched and seen. And I think that this is also one of those things which actually increases the chances of people participating, in addition, of course, to using every single channel we have what we can use. So to summarize, I would say that it is about what channels you use, and it is about the trust which you build through cooperation with community leaders.
And then again, we have our last stop again at Viļņas. So maybe you can tell us, how can we reach seniors? How do we invite elders to participate? If you have any comments on that, that would be great. But if not, I'm going to start to summarize this discussion, because I think that we very much highlighted some of the points. So first of all, the trust building. I think in general, we need to work for that, but the pandemic has showed that we need to work way more on building the trust and communication with the citizens, because it's going to be a major obstacle on how we do things or solve crises. So I think our long-term plan for all of us and everyone else is build trust with your citizens and build trust with your community, because it's extremely important in doing anything. The second point, and I think I've been telling that for for many years, participatory budgeting is wonderful. It's difficult and expensive, but the most important part is working together with people. Me and my colleagues, and we have also talked with others, that we really love approach that Tartu and other places are taking, that you have get-togethers with people and you actually talk where some ideas are going to be supported and others not. What are you doing good, or what you're doing bad, and what you can change? Because this community and this communication in these settings are super important to building trust and to getting people involved. The third point, continuity. Not changing things too often, but building on what we have. And as Ilona said, not creating something that we are not able to finish, and not creating methods or tools that we are not even able to execute. So we need to work with what we have and improve it and not change it too often, because as you said, it takes a long time to communicate. And if we communicate and then stop doing something, we have just reached the people when we stop doing something. So it gets very difficult to get the message to them via different channels. And I guess my fourth point to conclude this, we live in a very diverse societies, especially in capital cities, especially in big cities, as we all do. So we need to think how we communicate with our communities, which are so amazing because they are diverse and ethnically and linguistically and in age groups and in professional groups. But we cannot assume that everyone speaks in the same way on the same platforms and even at the same time. So we really need to have an actual we need to prioritize talking with people in ways and in times and in, I don't know, languages they hear, because that's how we are going to reach them, and that's also how we are going to build this trust in the long term. And with that being said, I want to give a virtual round of applause to all the amazing speakers we had today, starting from Helsinki, Finland. We have Pauli Salorante, thank you very much for being here. Then we have Mihail Dokimov from Tallinn, Estonia. Thank you very much for sharing. Then we come to Riga, and thank you, Ilona Stalidzāne, for sharing Riga's experience. And then again, we go to south, to Viļņas, and thank you, Daiva, and thank you, Neringa, for sharing your example. Again, I find that that you are doing something that we are not, and we need to learn also how to work with the aging age groups in the aging societies, and it's amazing that you do that. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing your insights and ideas. And with that being said, I'm being stopped and asked to ask 2 questions that were given back for, but I think that the questions have already been answered in the written form, but yeah, you have already responded to them, so thank you. Anyway, thanks to all of you, and we're gonna go back to Liga, who is gonna summarize the whole conference.
Thank you so much. It was extremely interesting to hear so different experiences, but still about almost the same issues, regardless where we are, in which city in our region. So it was very, very interesting, and I'm sure it would be so great if you could meet in person and share those experiences quite regularly. So the improvements will be in the whole region as well. Thank you so much for the panel discussion and Cynthia for moderating it. Nu, ko, paldies liels. Mūsu konferences tuvojas noslēgumam, un man šķiet ir bijušas ļoti bagātīgas 2 paneļa diskusijas, kurās mēs esam tuvojušies tam mērķim, kas arī bija uzstādīts šīs konferences sākumā, kas bija šīs konferences pamata uzdevums, un proti domāt par to, kas ir tās iespējas, kā mēs varam pilnveidot šo iedzīvotāju līdzdalību lielajās pilsētās, un mēs dzirdējām, ka tie izaicinājumi nemaz nav tik mazi. Tas ir ļoti sarežģīts darbs, tas ir ļoti arī resursietilpīgs darbs, tas prasa gan finanšu resursus, gan cilvēku resursus, un man šķiet visdārgākais resurs šajā resursu uzskaitījumā ir cilvēka entuziasms, un tas prasa lielu enerģiju no pašvaldības puses, no darbinieku puses, no politiķu puses, būt šim entuziasmam, darbināt viņu un atrast rīkus, kā tad tuvoties tam iedzīvotājiem, kā viņus sadzirdēt to, ko viņi saka, un vēl sarežģītāk ir pēc tam to, ko viņi ir teikuši, arī ieviest dzīvē. Mēs konferenci sākām ar mūsu Provides pat veikto pētījumu par iedzīvotāju iesaisti un galveniem instrumentiem Rīgas pašvaldībā, un šis pētījums ir pieejams Provides mājaslapā www.provides.lv. Un tas, ko mēs secinājām šajā pētījumā, bija skatot vairāk tādus tradicionālos instrumentus, kas pašvaldībās ir šādu iekšējo sistēmu, ka ja mēs varam runāt par zināmu lietu kārtību, kā ir organizētas gadu garumā konsultācijas ar dažādām interešu grupām, komisijās, padomēs, Iedziļinoties nedaudz vairāk tajā, mēs redzam, ka viņas ir zināmu laiku darbojušās tādā inerces režīmā un ka būtu vērts periodiski pavērtēt, vai ar šīm te konsultīvajām komisijām tiek panāts tas mērķis, appusējs mērķis gan tiem, kas iesaistās no sabiedrības puses, gan tiem, kas no pašvaldību puses, lai tas būtu tāds labs, efektīvs konsultācija Rīgas. Un mēs redzējām, ka ir vēl ļoti daudz un iespējas to pilnveidot. Ir labi tas, kas ir izveidots, bet ir jādomā, kā iepūst tajā jaunu svaigu elpu, bet arī padomāt, vai tas saskan ar tām pašvaldības prioritātēm, uz kurām arī pašvaldības solīs iedzīvotājiem virzīties tuvākajos gados. Kas attiecas uz lēmumu pieņemšanas procesu, mēs redzējām, ka tur gan nav varbūt nostiprinājusies tāda regulāra sadarbība ar iedzīvotājiem, bet no otras puses paneļa diskusijā, kur piedalījās arī atbildīgās ministrijas pārstāvji, mēs dzirdējām, ka potenciāli nākotnē pašvaldībām var būt arī, pienākums šajā te saistošo noteikumu izstrādes procesā jau ieviest arī zināmas obligātas konsultāciju prasības. Iepazīstieties ar pētījumu, un mēs priecāsimies, ja tas jums būs noderīgs, un mēs ticam, ka tas noderēs ne tikai Rīgas pašvaldībai, bet arī citām lielajām pilsētām un arī novadiem padomāt par to, kādi ir šie iekšējie mehānismi un kam viņi noder. Pirmā paneļa diskusija mums bija vairāk paneļa diskusija, kurā tādu galveno lomu spēlēja lielo pilsētu mēri, un mums bija prieks, ka viņiem visiem trim bija iespēja pieslēgties mūsu konferencē un padalīties ar savu redzējumu, kā viņi redz sabiedrības līdzdalību savā pašvaldībā. Bija lietas, kas bija visiem kopīgas. Viena no tām bija tāda atziņa, ko šķiet izteica vismaz divi no mēriem, ka mēs nevaram sagaidīt, ka pašvaldības politiķi labi spēja pārzināt visu, kas ir iedzīvotājiem svarīgs, un ka šie te instrumenti ir arī politiķiem ļoti nepieciešami. Un tāpēc ir šīs te dažādās komisijas. Mēs dzirdējām, gan to skaits ir liels, gan to iesaistīto pušu, to personu lokus arī ir diezgan plašs. Katrs meklē varbūt sev piemērotāko veidu, kā šajos te komisijās vai tikšanās ar iedzīvotājiem sarunāties. Vienam tās ir klātienes tikšanās, dodoties uz apkaimēm, citam tas ir sociālie mēdīji vai citi mēdīji un regulāri jautājumu atbilžu sesija ar saviem iedzīvotājiem, bet šis te tikšanās un kontakts ar iedzīvotājiem periodiski tiek veikts. Cerams, ka iedzīvotāji to novērtē, un šis ir viens no piemēriem, kur ir šis regulārais treniņu darbs jāveic, lai sasniegtu augstvērtīgus rezultātus. Tas ir tāds ļoti, varbūt brīžiem nogurdinošs darbs, šis regulārā saziņa ar iedzīvotājiem pirmkārt viņiem radot iespēju izteikties, bet nodrošinot šādu sistemātiskumu, ka tas notiek regulāri, prognozējumi, tā ir tāda laba treniņu programma augstvērtīgiem rezultātiem. Un tas, kas bija labi dzirdēt, bija arī diezgan lielas ambīcijas, vismaz Rīgas galvaspilsētā, un tas ir brīnišķīgi. Mēs varēsim arī tad atskatīties uz šo periodu, un kaut vai 70%, kas ir apmierināti ar pašvaldības darbu pēc 4 gadiem, tas ir brīnišķīgs uzstādījums. Un šķiet, ka, kā novērtēt to, vai līdzdalība ir pietiekama, vai tā notiek pietiekami labi. Droši vien mēs varētu katrs uzveidot tādu sarakstu ar lietām, kas par to liecina, un droši vien, ka apmierinātība ar pašvaldības darbu būtu viens no tiem punktiem. Tāpat kā vēlme dzīvot pašvaldībā, gatavība iesaistīties arī tuvākās apkaimes pilnveidošanā, brīvprātīgajā darbā un tam līdzīgi. Mēs dzirdējām arī tādu svarīgu atziņu, ko minēja Liepājas mērs, ka daudz jautājumu nemaz nav tik savstarpēji nošķirami, ka ir šī savstarpējā sazobe gan pašvaldības iedzīvotājiem, gan uzņēmējiem, gan dažādu jomu darbiniekiem, pārstāvjiem ir ļoti, ļoti svarīgi. Kaut vai, lai investors gribētu investēt kādā no pilsētām, piemēram, Liepājā, viņam arī interesē, cik aktīva ir šī vietējā kultūras dzīve, cik tā daudz atved uz Liepāju viesus, māksliniekus, vai tā dzīve, cik pilnesinīgi ir šī dzīve. Tā kā šie jautājumi nemaz nav tik nošķirami, un arī līdzdalība viņa jau nav pati par sevi, vai ne? Tā ir domāta, lai mēs uzlabotu šos te procesus pašvaldībā, gan pakalpojumus, gan lēmumus, un lai dzīve kopumā būtu laba un iedzīvotāji, kas tajā dzīvo, būtu apmierināti gan ar tiem pakalpojumiem, ko viņi saņem, gan ar izklaides iespējām, gan ar veselības aprūpas iespējām un tam līdzīgi. Tā kā tas ir tāds milzīgs darbs, bet tas ir tāds ļoti integrēts darbs un arī svarīgi pārdomāt par šiem te rīkiem, kā iedzīvotājs sasniegt tīri komunikācijas ziņā. Mēs dzirdējām, ja Rīgas mērs teica, ka Rīgai ir vēl ko darīt, tad šajā konferencē bija iespēja dzirdēt, ka Liepāja jau ir spērus nākamo soli un ir apvienojis visus šos te komunikācijas platformas vienā. Ļoti labas lietas, ko atkal varēja viens no otrā izgūt. Mēs dzirdējām, ka Daugavpilī tāds ļoti liels uzsvars ir uz tiešo komunikāciju, kā vēl ar vienu ir svarīgi šīs te regulārās tikšanās, vai tas ir daudzdzīvokļu namu pagalms vai kāda vietējā apkaime, kur mērs vismaz mūsu konferencē demonstrēja tādu lielu entuziasmu, ka vajadzīga ir regulāra tiešā saziņa ar iedzīvotājiem vai šīs te lielās iedzīvotāju sapulces, kurās atkal var gan risināt kādu jautājumu, gan arī mēģināt izskaidrot, ka pašvaldības darbā tomēr arī ir daudz ierobežojumu. Ne viss, ko iedzīvotāji vēlas, ir iespējams sasniegt tūlīt un uzreiz. Tā kā katra no lielajām pašvaldībām ir meklējusi savus veidus, kā to sadarbību būvēt. Un arī mēs redzam, ka šīs te lielie mērķi, kas ir, piemēram, virzība uz kultūras galvaspilsētas status, palīdz pārvērtēt arī šo te savu attīstību un arī saziņu ar iedzīvotājiem. Tā kā ļoti daudz ambiciozas idejas, kas izskanēja no politiķiem, bet no otras puses arī Māris no Apkaimju alianses ieskicēja, kāda ir tā praktiskā puse un pacēla tādu ļoti būtisku jautājumu, ka ir ļoti svarīgi ar šī politiskā apņemšanās daudz intensīvāk sazināties ar iedzīvotājiem, bet ir svarīgi, ka ir šī interese un prasmes līdzsvarotas arī šajā izpildvaras līmenī, proti, ka tie cilvēki, kas ikdienā daudz dara šos te praktiskos jautājumus, risina, izstrādā projektus, ka arī šajā izpildvaras līmenī ir līdzīga izpratne par līdzdalības nepieciešamību, tās svarīgumu, tās tālāko ietekmi. Un mēs dzirdējām, ka būtībā tā ir tāda liela problēma, kas nav tikai Rīgas problēma, tā kopumā ir pašvaldība problēma, bet tā ir jāmeklē veidi, kā tuvināt šo te izpratni, kas ir izpildvaras līmenī un kas ir politiskajā līmenī. Kādēļ tas ir svarīgi? Tas ir svarīgi arī tādēļ, ka mēs zinām, šis politiskais līmenis regulāri mainās vēlēšanu ceļā. Ir svarīgi, ka ir zināms sistemātiskums un stabilitāte tajā, kā ikdienas darbs un lēmumu pieņemšanas process arī pašvaldībās notiek, lai tas ir iedarbināts tādā labā, ieeļotā mehānismā, un šī sazoba ar iedzīvotājiem ir intensīva, pietiekama un netik ļoti atkarīga no tā, vai vienam vai otram politiķim ir ārkārtīgi liela ambīcija kaut ko darīt ar iedzīvotāju iesaisti. Protams, bez politiskās intereses lielam entuziasmu darbinieku līmenī arī nebūs pietiekami. Tas, ko mēs dzirdējām, pat noslēgtajā otrajā paneļa diskusijā, arī bija ļoti interesanti redzēt dažas paralēlas lietas, ka vienā vai otrā pašvaldībā tuvāk vai tālāk ir ieviests līdzdalības budžets, atšķirās varbūt tādas pieejas, nedaudz nianses, finansējums un arī tā attīstības stadija. Vienā jau mēs esam pavirzījušies vairāk uz priekšu, otrā tas ir tikai pilotu projekts, bet mēs dzirdam, ka šīs problēmas ir diezgan līdzīgas un būtu labi, ja mums būtu šāda regulāra platforma, kur pašvaldības var satikties un padalīties pieredzē un nesajusties tik vientuļi savās problēmās, ka mēs dzirdam, ka ir grūtības sasniegt dažādas sabiedrības grupas, vai tā ir vecuma grupa noteikta vai etniskā grupa. Un tā ir līdzīga problēma daudzās, praktiski visās pašvaldībās. Un var nedaudz pamācīties tos ceļus, kā līdz viņām iet, meklēt tiešām šīs te grupas, kur viņas pašas satiekās, varbūt un neskatīties tik standartizēt uz iesaistes procesiem, meklēt tādus jaunus ceļus, kā viņas sasniegt. Bet tā ir tāda vienojoša lieta, ar ko mēs visi esam šī izaicinājuma priekšā, un kas parāda arī to, ka līdzdalības process jau ir cieši saistīts ar citām lietām, ka viena no tām ir integrācija. Otra lieta, kas arī izskanēja, ir šī te uzticēšanās. Iespējams, ka iedzīvotāji nemaz nevēlās iesaistīties, jo viņiem pietrūkst šīs te uzticēšanās, ka viņi var kaut ko ietekmēt procesos. Un tā arī ir lieta, kas parāda, ka mums ir regulāri jādomā par to, kā būvēt šo uzticēšanos, un tas jau ir pamats līdzdalībai, lai mēs sagaidītu, ka iedzīvotāji būtu aktīvi. Ir jāmeklē ceļi, kā mēs esam gatavi savstarpēji sadarboties, atrast veidu, kā sarunāties, vienalga vai tā ir viena valoda vai divas dažādas valodas, kādā notiek šī saruna, bet svarīgi, ka šīs sarunas rezultātā ir sapratne, ka mēs viens otru esam sapratuši, un tas ir tāds līdzdalības pamats. Tas, ko arī minēja Paulis no Helsinkiem, arī atgādinājums, būsim reāli, mēs varam būvēt ļoti lielas sapņus, cik svarīga ir līdzdalība un cik tā ir patiešām svarīga ietekme, un tas ir demokrātijas pamats, bet jāatcerās, protams, ka tas arī ir zināms diezgan liels darba ieguldījums, tas prasa diezgan nopietnu ieguldījumu no pašvaldības, kaut vai līdzdalības budžeta procesā. Šis iespaidīgais piemērs, ko Helsinki rādīja, cik daudz pašvaldība investē gan finansiāli, gan laika izteiksmē, piemēram, palīdzot iedzīvotājiem izstrādāt idejas. Fantastiski, no otras puses padomājot, tās izmaksas parasti ir tas bremzējošais faktors, kāpēc dažreiz kāds process nenotiek pietiekami labi, jo viņas nav paredzētas, nav plānotas, un arī Latvijā tā ir tāda liela problēma, ka mums kā atbalstīt pietiekami šajā procesā iedzīvotājus, lai tās idejas, ko viņi atnestu, lai viņiem pietiktu ar savu ideju, nevis būtu jāmeklē kaut kur palīdzība, lai izstrādātu ļoti profesionālus pieteikumus, un tad jau tā sabiedrības līdzdalība atkal gluži nav visiem. Šo pieejamību, ka to visi var nākt ar savām idejām, ir ļoti svarīgi uzturēt, jo tas jau ir šī Rīga pamats. Ko līdz tā ir ļoti sarežģīta, kur mēs iedzīvotājiem vairs nav iespēja pašam būt spējīgam sagatavot ideju, tad tas jau ir diezgan apgrūtinoši. Bet arī citos līdzdalības procesos tas vienmēr ir plānojams un jāieplāno šī izmaksu daļa, ka viņa var būt. Un tas, kas ir demokrātijas, tas spožums un posts, no vienas puses ir šīs līdzdalības izmaksas, no otras puses līdzdalības process pats ir ārkārtīgi svarīgs un ārkārtīgi veselīgs, lai mēs veidotu labas gan savstarpējās uzticēšanās attiecības, kas ir starp iedzīvotājiem, dažādām sociālajām grupām, bet arī, lai labāk saprastu to, kā funkcionē pašvaldība. Un caur šo iesaistošo procesu mēs varam labāk redzēt, kā pašvaldībā notiek vispār lēmumu pieņemšanas process, ka arī pašai pašvaldībai ir daudz dažādu ierobežojumu. Nemitīgi ir jāprioritizē lietas, jāpārplāno budžets, kā mēs redzam realitātē, dažreiz tā īstenošana ir ļoti ātri nepieciešama un ļoti tādā īsā laika sprīdī. Ir daudzas lietas, ko var caur šo demokrātisko procesu, kas neapšaubām rada izmaksas, iemācīties par to, kā funkcionē pašvaldību pārvalde, un tas noteikti stiprina arī uzticēšanos pašvaldībām. Es ceru, ka visiem un katram no jums ir bijusi kāda vismaz viena lieta, kas ir aizķērusies prātā par to, ko jūs varat no šīs dienas konferences paņemt. Un tā būs noderīga jums praksē, neatkarīgi no tā, vai jūs esat pašvaldības pārstāvis vai vienkārši aktīvais iedzīvotājs. Es ceru, ka tas patiešām pakāpeniski mēs spēsim tuvināties un atrast tos veidus, kā arvien vairāk šo līdzdalību stiprināt, neatkarīgi no tā, kas mēs esam. Bet vēl ar vienu paliktu pie šī uzstādījuma, ka tā ir tāda, ka rezultāts var sasniegt ar to pastāvīgo treniņu programmu. Un līdzdalība šajā ziņā ir tā, kur šīs muskulis, demokrātijas muskulis ir jāstiprina. No manas puses milzīgs paldies visiem, kas ir visu šo dienu bijuši kopā ar mums. Providis turpinās sekot līdzdalības jautājumiem, cik vien tas ir mūsu spēkos iespējams. Un mēs arī regulāri turpinam darbu un sadarbību ar dažādām pašvaldībām. Un arī no savas puses daudz bagātinamies un iemācāmies par to, kas notiek dažādās pašvaldībās Latvijā. Mēģinam piedāvāt savu atbalstu tur, kur vien tas ir nepieciešams, un ja kādam no jums šāda vajadzība ir, aicinu vērsties pie mums un centīsimies no savas puses sniegt atbalstu, vai tās ir apmācības, vai tā ir kāda līdzdalības pasākuma plānošana, vai cita veida atbalsts. Aicinu sazināties, mēs mēģināsim no savas puses sniegt atbalstu, jo patiešām mums ir svarīgi šie vietējās demokrātijas jautājumi. un arī pilsoniskās apziņas jautājumi. Tā kā liels paldies no manas puses, un tagad ir pavisam pēdējais